Welcome to the Consulting Leaders Podcast, where we talk about the business of consulting. Whether you're looking to grow your practice or learn from the stories of leaders in consulting, you're in the right place. I'm your host, Guillaume Jouvencel, ex-PwC and co-founder of GHA Marketing. Join me as I interview the best consultants in their niche. Let's get on with the show. Gayemarie, welcome to Consulting Leaders. Happy to have you.
Happy to be here.
Let's jump straight into it. What got you into the fantastic world, yet sometimes a bit stressful world of consulting and transformation work?
Literally accidental tourist. I don't even think I knew what it was as a, well, I know I didn't know what it was as a profession. And I was pulled in by one of the big five, Deloitte, at the time, not knowing it was going to be the best thing that happened to my career. And I refused them many times. It was a big transformation time at the time because it was like .com boom. And I was running an interactive company and doing a lot of other things. And I just thought of it, what am I going to do with myself in this big, what I thought was staid, boring profession. And I had no idea how wrong I was and threw it into it. And that was at the time where big consulting, as you know, as an ex-PwC, swings back and forth between bringing people up and what they call industry hires. So I would have been considered an industry hire, which doesn't always mesh. So I didn't grow up, but they were the best thing that happened to my career. You're surrounded by insanely intelligent people. You'll never be the smartest person in the room again, which for me is just a gift, and I didn't realize how much I'd love it. Like always something new, always helping. Like it's really more service oriented than people think. The people who end up staying in it, I think really understand that you're really, if you have too much of an ego, I don't think you last too much, generally speaking, because you're really in service of your client, you're in service of where the market goes, you're in service of really helping to navigate things that don't have answers always.
It's funny because I rarely hear, I was dreaming of becoming a consultant when I was young, but more like happened accidentally.
I wanted to be a librarian because I thought I could just sit and read books all day. I was
Really?
I was such a nerd.
Favorite book of all time, Gayemarie?
Oh, goodness gracious. Oh my God, so many. Lord of the Rings, probably Silmarillion, and I got to throw in Anne of Green Gables because as a Canadian. And
you have to throw in the what?
Anne of Green Gables. It's a Canadian book, a coming of age. It's Canada's answer to like a little woman, only it's an orphan who's a redhead with blue eyes who reads too much. And so I could, of course, really relate to this odd nerdy kid in Prince Edward Island. So yeah.
Well, you got me with Lord of the Rings, so I might have to give a go at Anne of Green Gables.
Yes.
Actually, a quick question. You mentioned Big Five. It's funny because in Europe we say Big Four. So Deloitte, Ernst & Young, PwC, KPMG.
And then I think at one point we used to throw in what is now Accenture because it was Anderson and now it's Accenture.
Okay.
So
yeah, fair enough. Learning every day.
Yeah.
So tell us more about the specific problem that you help people solve now. Like, what is it that you help your clients achieve?
It's a great question. Solving for rapid change driven by technology advancements is the simplest way to put it. The challenge with it is especially right now with AI, I've been in AI for 6 years. So I've had a wave of clients return to me. 3 or 4 years ago, I was like crazy lady and they were saying it's coming. And trying to articulate the things we could do to get ready. And not a lot of people listened to me. I was in front of governments. I was in front of privy councils, everything, which is frustrating to me now because I think a lot of these mass layoffs and things, but here we are. So I think now what we're solving for is how might we handle the new cost center paradigm, what is the ROI? People are really struggling with that and revenue generations. And what does the organizational construct and business model look like? Because at the end of the day, typically most companies still have, shareholders to keep happy, VC funding to keep happy, or what I used to call death by quarter in the larger organizations. And it's very, 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 there's a lot of pressure, never mind a geopolitical shift every other week, it seems. So, it's never been tougher, I think, to be a good leader. And there's never been more opportunity to unlock human value than with AI, specifically agentic, agent-driven, and generative, just to be specific. So I think it's a world of opportunity, but it's also a world of pain people are navigating. So that's what I usually solve for. People who've run pilots, haven't been able to get them off the ground, and know they need to do something to compete, because the speed factor. I was just on the call the other day with a friend of mine who's launching a bunch of agents and forming an agent-driven consulting practice. It's never been this much pressure that I've seen, and I've seen a lot of pressure in the system.
So are you helping people launch AI agents, or are you helping them get results with AI agents?
Both. So what I typically do is I'm hired by COO, CFOs often, sometimes chief experience officers, sometimes chief transformation officers, or I'm a proxy chief transformation officer. And literally doing a scan on a functional level for where AI can accelerate existing results, save cost, or make money. And then we look at what type of agents could be launched. Is it a human-person interaction? So are we augmenting human context and making your employees better, more efficient with that aid? Or are we replacing, especially at the infrastructure, at the API level, where there's a lot of replacing and displacing of human touch point, where the agent is more efficient and faster, especially at like certain code levels and things like that.
I like that. Do you have a specific ICP, niche, target, company size, industry that you help? Like who do you work with?
I've worked a lot with private equity. I've worked a lot in financial services, and I've worked a lot in media, publishing, media, telecom kind of things. I think telecom's a beast that I don't typically do a lot of more work in anymore. But those are my typical clients. Mid-market, so somebody's in the vernacular, I would say Series A, Series B are great opportunities. Large organization, it would be at a functional level. It would be a specific function, like customer experience, operations, that kind of thing.
So I have a bit of a cheeky question for you. I hope you won't mind.
That's an oxymoron. You can't have a bit of, it's either cheeky or not, Kim.
That's a good correction, actually. Thank you for that, Gayemarie.
You're welcome.
So PE, financial services, media. So, I see somehow the link between PE and financial services, but still, I just have three very different industries. So maybe that before, I think you mentioned CTOs. Who makes the decision of working with you?
CFOs and COOs more and more, I would say. What I find it very interesting because a lot of my clients are CFOs, and I did a lot of work in audit and tax and mass transformation with Deloitte, and was surrounded with CFOs. And I am not somebody you want to be a CFO. So I think what happens is I find them excellent thought partners, because CFOs and COOs, they take their accountability very seriously. They're very metrics driven. They know their business really, really well. I will rarely know their business better than they do. So what I can help with is a disruptive thinking and help create success for them in ways that they wouldn't have contemplated. Because these people, keeping the lights on every day is no small task right now, in terms of framing it. So I've been surprised myself that the last decade, they have been my target and they have been my client base.
So how do you market in a way that gets the attention of the CFO, CEOs who are struggling with launching their proper AI agents and getting results from this, when you're targeting at the same time PE, financial services, and media? What's working for you to get the attention of those people?
Lots of referrals. So I would say a good chunk of my business is referrals for sure. Especially because I've been at this for so long. And then there's a trust value that's already there. Partnerships, so strategic partnerships. So strategic partnerships with PE firms, strategic partnerships with other boutique consultants that are really specializing in a specific niche. Like I have partnerships where they go really deep technically, like at an infrastructure, cold architecture layer, which I don't do, but I'm more strategy ops. So we refer each other in. A lot of content generation, so thoughtware, speaking on podcasts like this.
That would make sense. And
the usual, to be honest with you. I don't think there's a maybe
yeah.
I think a lot of grind.
That's how it's done. So I like to break down, because I think referrals, and we talk about it a lot on the show, obviously, is for me it's not really a marketing channel in the sense of that's the byproduct of doing a good job.
Actually, that's fair.
And I take it a bit the other way around, which is, so we usually don't interview people who don't get referrals because we check and make sure that they do. But as a consultant, if you're not getting referrals, we need to fix the product first. So it wouldn't even make sense to market in a sense.
That's an interesting perspective.
Thank you. Is it cheeky? A bit cheeky? Or
no, I think it's factual. I think that's probably a tough conversation, right?
It is. So I don't have it often because we typically interact with people who are getting referrals. But so yeah, that's why I'm mentioning this. That's interesting. But then you have like podcast guesting, content, speaking engagements, networking, grind, which it takes a lot of. How do you move from those, so podcast guesting, speaking engagements, content, networking, to a conversation, a sales conversation, an SOW, a letter of engagement, we rock and roll? What does sales motion look like for you, Gayemarie?
It's a great question, and something I've become much, much, much better at since launching my own company 6-7 years ago. Because I was lucky that, like, which makes you lucky and lazy, right? So when work keeps landing in your lap, you don't really have to build your other skills in operating as an entrepreneur. So that gets interesting fast. For me, I think it's a lot of making sure I've spent a lot of time on 3 areas. One is, what's the problem we're solving for? 2 is, have they articulated the right problem? I've walked away sometimes from people where I don't think it's the problem we should be solving for, and I just feel disingenuous. So I just won't. And I've had clients, I'd say 80% come back when I've walked away from that stage. 3, when I write a proposal, I really, you come up from PwC. I remember getting in trouble a lot with the bigger firms or bigger companies, giving away. At the end of the day, especially in this day and age, I used to say, if your client can Google you, what value are you bringing? Now, if your client can ChatGPT 5 or Claude or whatever, what value are you bringing anymore, right, to the equation? So I like to spend a lot of time at the very beginning, making sure we're in sync, from a problem statement, from how we agree we want to go about tackling and solving for this problem. I'm big on speed. A lot of my clients, to be honest with you, come back to me and they're like, are you sure I get the opposite. Are you sure you built enough time in this proposal to solve for this? Now, where that gets tricky is, of course, if there's complex stakeholder environments, et cetera, then I will work with them to say, why did you think I need more time? Because I don't think the days of like the old death march 6 to 12 month or 18-month consulting engagements are gone. If you yourself, so, and then that leads to my statement of work, and it's very collaborative. The only time I send over a PDF kind of version is when it's ready for signature. I'd rather it be an artifact we've co-created, so there's no misinterpretation of the journey together. Because I'm big on tough conversations early and often. Because later on, if you don't have them early and often, they come up anyway and they're uglier.
I mean, couldn't agree more. I think there is a few things I want to double down on here, because I think I mean, that's super valuable for the audience. So thanks a lot for this, Gayemarie. And back to your earlier point around if people can just chat GPT the information that you're going to give them, what's your value? I think we tend to see information as a commodity now, which is true and not true, in my opinion. The reason is information has been free for like 26 years now. I mean, you could literally Google stuff. You need to do a bit of research, but information is free. Now, it's even more accessible right now, which makes information a bit more as a commodity. So the question is, what does have value? What has value in the age of AI for consultants? I don't think it's that much more information, but selection and curation is still pretty valuable. You just need to be better at it.
This is a great topic because I've been on it for like 3 days straight with my and I've having this. So my colleague who's launching an agent first, he's on my advisory board. I'm in his advisory board, and once every other week we just go at each other, test each other's thinking, make sure we're getting current. He'll maybe check a proposal for me, and he was not as bullish on AI as I have been until I want to say the last couple months. And then he went dark on me and he came out with 48 agents and he's like, I'm launching a consulting company with only agents. So, and then I have another group I'm part of, a consortium that I'm part of and we realized that your experience matters more than there's really 3 things matter. You could have one in isolation, right? You could have IQ, be really, really, really smart, like software coders, not talk to anybody, heads down, come out the other side as a genius. Worked with a lot of those people. 2, EQ, right? We went through all that. EQ had to be really, really high. And then critical thinking. So those 3 things. And then I guess experience as well. But if I focus on the 3 pillars that we've really been settling on, it's never been more important to have all 3. Because you're constantly having to go into a situation where you really never really quite sure what the information is, how it's been sourced, what's behind it from a LLM, how, all of those things. So you constantly are in a state of critical thinking, analysis, and EQ to make sure you can unlock value very quickly. And using agents, and whether it's ChatGPT, Claude, whatever we all use, I mean, I'm on them all the time, as thought partners can be very powerful. But you have to be really able to recognize the blips, right? Like, is contextualization there? I mean, it's coming a long way. Intonation there. What role are they thinking they're targeting? Who does the AI think they're talking to? There's a lot of these things. At the same time, I get really excited in case you can't tell, but I think we're at the precipice of unlocking, this is where you get frustrated, more value than ever in the employees, right? So I really get frustrated with Jack Dorsey, who's like, I just took out 40% of my company. Look at me. Well, yeah, you and all the other tech bros, right? But most people don't have the luxury, whether it's a regulatory environment, whether it's a business case, whether it's like people with mortgages, like these are human beings we're talking about. I think it's never been more possible to take maybe even your average to above average, around there, employees, and unlock them, like really unlock their value. The average person, let's assume I've always said this, the average person, let's assume grade 5 to 12 education-ish, not even college or postgrad. Let's just say that. With the right agents, they can learn, they can create, they've got now resources at their fingertips. But we have to make sure we're unlocking value at the employee level, at your cost center value, at your revenue, at your customer value. To me, it's what some of us have been waiting for a long time, the ability to supercharge human potential at an organization where you're stuck, and it's cheaper. Right? So a lot of times the investment, the old investments, cloud, it was big. Like we were dealing with what? 25, some of us $75 million cases. People, I remember having one CEO shut the door, CFO, and saying, "You're going to get me fired," because it was like a $25 million miss on a business case. That is not trivial. And I was like, well, I had to tell you, like, we can't, maybe everybody else was afraid to tell you because we're going to throw the chair, which he did. Now we can do things and experiment and invest incrementally without mass investments in infrastructure, with cloud computing, with SaaS, with, all these things at our fingertips. But what we're not doing is we think people are looking at the bottom line. AI, this whole business of AI and firing 40 people, to me, lacks leadership and corporate accountability. And what are we, our future as a society? I just really frustrated. That was my soapbox you unlocked.
We can tell that you're enthusiastic about it, Gayemarie, which is the whole point. That's why I love interviewing people like you. So that does make sense. I agree with you. And there is a whole play happening. I mean, obviously, AI is coming. Oh, folks, scratch that. AI is here. How do we embrace it? How do we make the best use of it, especially as consultants? Tell me more about client retention. You build that AI agent, you help them get results with it. And then what? At the end of the day, growth for a consultant comes from client retention. How do you do that?
Well, I find for me, and this goes back to when I had big teams, I used to take a sign, whatever big firm, whether it was Deloitte or whatever, and say, they're not paying your salary. The client is paying your salary. If you're in consulting, and that's the fact. All those people in front of you have lives. They have career aspirations. They maybe have promotions. There's so much value you can create as a consultant in an organization by traditional relationship building. But for me, it goes a step further. And I like to know, how are they being rewarded? What are their personal and professional career aspirations? And that's why, in addition to consulting, I've been certified in coaching, executive coaching, and cognitive and neuroscience coaching, which I also got into mostly so I could unlock AI. Because to me, retention's never really a challenge for me. Long-term relationships is where the magic happens, because then you really understand the organization. You really understand the culture. You understand more and more the pain and pressure your client counterpart or their staff, and you build trust. And to build trust, I work with a lot of large privately held family organizations. That's a whole different beast. You're dealing with legacy. You're dealing with succession planning. You have to be aware of the responsibility you take on when you're delivering a quote unquote consulting. To me, it's not a project ever. It's a program, and it's a solution, and it needs to have longevity. And I'd like to know I've impacted people along the way, not just the technology, not just the outcome, not just the KPIs and the ROI, but have I helped to grow the organization and the people, and have I left it? It's kind of like, leave it better than when you found it. To sound like really old school, but that, I mean, I think that's why I love it so much, is that it can be very hard to have conversations, all of that. But to me, retention is about, why are you there? Do you really care, or are you just doing a job?
Amen to that. I'm going to throw another curveball question at you then.
Sure.
Gayemarie, what's your number one challenge right now? What's the one nut that you're trying to crack that, once you crack, you're going to take the whole thing to the next level?
Yeah, I think
you cannot say not in your position.
Yeah, I think for me, it's the mindset of leadership and where we're at in this day and age. And without the right mindset in our corporations, because they're just so busy firefighting all the time, right? And any other time we've seen firefights, Enron, SEC.com boost, recessions, what happens is creativity and the ability to take risks gets lowered quite significantly. So you become so focused on what's in front of you, and then what happens is, I used to say to people, especially startup software companies, find out what they started with. So find out where they grew, because then you'll find out who they are. And same with companies and people. So what happens in this stage is people go back to what they know and what they're good at. And that's not necessarily what's going to solve for future state problems. So I think the challenge I face is often really finding clients where I believe we can work together and share the kind of mindset required to really make an impact and make change. And that's very, very difficult when you have the weight, when you feel like you get up every morning and you have the weight of the world, whether it's your board, whether it's your CEO, whether it's your employees, whether it's another tariff, whatever the hell it is that gets thrown at you. I don't know if we're supposed to swear on this podcast. I'm trying to.
It's all right. It's too late for this. Don't worry. We've been shadow banned. That's all right.
Has always been, and again, another reason why I pursued to up my game in advisory and coaches and executive advice, to really make sure I have some empathy toward what it's like to sit in those shoes, in that role, and what are the pressures and how does that drive behavior? Because that sometimes will help me unlock other consulting opportunities as well. But again, I'm at the stage where I'm done what I used to call pushing a car uphill when I was younger. Oh, wow. You would have thrown any problem at me, Guillaume, I'm telling you, I would solve it. No, if nobody else could push that car uphill, I was the girl who was going to be able to push that car uphill. It didn't matter if nobody else had done it before. Now, I've got enough Harry Potter scars to last a lifetime. I'm a little bit more aware of limitations, and I would rather work and have success with my client counterparts who are ready. And I've made that mistake of trying to sell hard or impose what I think should be done, and they're not ready.
Gayemarie Brown, ladies and gentlemen. Gayemarie, if people want to find out more about you, see what you do, where should they go?
They can go to my website, Wintam Place Consulting, or just Google Gayemarie Brown because it's a weird name. They'll find me.
There is only one.
There is only one.
Gayemarie, we'll put all the links in the description. For what I'm concerned, I can say one thing for sure. It's that you've gained at least one new connection on LinkedIn out of this interview. Me, I just added you.
Awesome.
And thank you so much for coming on Consulting Leaders.
You're very welcome.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Consulting Leaders Podcast. We hope you learned valuable lessons on how to grow your practice and take your business to the next level. Make sure to subscribe and leave us a review wherever you're listening to this show so you never miss an episode. To apply and be a guest on the show, click the link in the description. See you next time.